Hello, I'm Alex Habersham, your host for a call to action, and I have with me today Commissioner Sam Hart, Chairman Sam Hart of the Bibb County Board of Commissioners, and it's a pleasure for me to have the commissioner here and talk to him. I'm one that has been very, very concerned about our community and its progress and its growth and its perception. So I thought it would not be robbery to have Commissioner Hart on the show today to talk about some of the things that are going on, will go on, that he wants to go on, and things of that nature. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
And as I said, I'm your host, Alex Habersham, and I'm just happy to be here. Sam is a friend of mine. Matter of fact, he used to help me across the street when I was a little boy. Hold my hand. Just kidding. But I've known him for a long time and have been more than a little impressed with his life, really, and the way he would write his autobiography or his biography. So, but why don't we do this? Why don't we just kind of go back, so people can become familiar with you, because there are a whole lot of things that enter into public service, the background and the learning and the knowledge and the experiences. So just talk a little bit about, start with Lil Sam.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm a native of Monroe County.
Okay.
But again, I always say I claim Bibb County because this is where we came to shop.
Yeah.
So I've been coming to Bibb County all my life,
right.
off and on. But grew up in Monroe County, and after I got out of service, I went and worked 1 year coaching basketball in Hawkinsville, Georgia.
Oh my God!
And left and came back after that 1 year to Bibb County, and started to work at Lanier Junior High when it was all boys.
Okay.
And was a part of the transition team that because the very next year the schools integrated, and that's when they changed the names of the schools. And I was a part of that transition team. Well,
guess what?
You have to do that.
I was at Lanier Senior High.
Yes.
When it was all boys, and that was an interesting experience.
It was,
because what they did, and correct me if I'm wrong, they integrated the teachers first.
They did.
So they sent black teachers to white schools and white teachers to black schools, and it was kind of experience. So now I know you got tough skin, man.
Yeah, well,
for you to go into that environment and do well, and it was really some interesting times.
Very, very much so.
And go ahead.
But after that, I think the very next year, I started to work over at Mercer University as in the Upward Bound program as the assistant coordinator for the Upward Bound program. And I think a year or so after that, I became the coordinator and ultimately became the director of that program, and worked over at Mercer for 32 years.
Wow.
Off and on doing things. But during the time I got at Mercer, I married, and been married for 40 plus years. I think it's 41. I think it's 41 years. 41 years, and have two sons, and both are products of the Bibb County school system, and both are back in Macon.
One is a lawyer, right?
One's a lawyer, and the other one runs the center for us over at Middle Georgia Center for Academic Excellence and S&V education system. So he does that for me. But he was a teacher and wanted to do education. And worked up at Chapel Hill, went to Chapel Hill, and then worked at Chapel Hill, and then came back here to do the work here. So both of them are working, and I am not at home. Got grandkids, 2 grandkids, and I guess that's where we should have started. They're the great best thing in the world, so according to us. And so we're very pleased. But so I did that, and I guess while I was at Mercer, near the end of that, and I decided to run for a district seat on the county commissioners, and did that, and in '96, and was elected, and remained district commissioner for about 10 years, and then resigned because we decided to move out of the district, move close to our grandkids, and when we did that, I had moved out, so I resigned, and after being out for 2 years, I decided to run for chairman, and so I ran and was successful, and been chairman for the last 4 years.
That's awesome. Now, what kind of interest, I know that honest politicians don't make any money. So what kind of drive or heart, what motivated you to spend, 14, 16 years, serving your community?
We sit on the sideline and we often complain to each other about making some change. And I'd done that both in terms of what my work life. I had the opportunity to work with young folk and to look at change and whatever. And so I thought I had something to offer at the next level, the elected level, to see if I couldn't have some impact on the community. I think it's important, again, to get involved and to see if you can't have some positive change for your community. And I guess all my life, ever since I've been coming here just as a visitor, I'd heard about Macon having potential and started wondering where in the world was that potential? When would we realize that potential? And I said, boy, maybe I can have a hand in making some of it happen. And as I discovered that change comes slowly.
Right.
But again, I think we've had an opportunity to have some impact, especially since I've been chairman.
Right. Okay, now talk a little bit about the role that those varied experiences play in your becoming an effective commissioner, the educational role and the administration role, because, and the reason I ask you that is, in my opinion, it takes a deep understanding of all levels of the community in order for a leader, you got to understand where, the people in Buttermilk Bottom coming from and the people in Bass Road, where they are coming from. So talk about your experiences as it relates to being broadly experienced in several facets of the community.
I think you're exactly right. I think in terms of working in education for that number of years, it really got me involved with the diversity of our community. I saw kids who the first other generations consider college, talk to their parents, but also got a chance to work with professors and other people from the other side. So I think the people who can bridge the diversity of the community are the people who can be successful and can have some impact. And certainly, I think by working in education and having to deal with a lot of people, a lot of different people with a different ambition, different backgrounds, it gave me the opportunity to have the kind of, I guess, knowledge and insight to be able to bridge cultures and bridge diversity of the community and to make some change. So that was good for me, and I think it has helped me to move into politics where you have to be a good listener. Right. And I think often what people who work in politics are not good listeners. So they come in with a fix, but sometimes it's the wrong fix because it's not appropriate for what's wrong. And I think by being, first of all, being a good listener and then doing your due diligence, then you're much more likely to fix the problem. Yeah. And I think that's what has helped me in terms of, again, being able to focus and to focus on some very key issues rather than being all over the place. And I think that's, and the other side of that is, too, that in terms of engaging people, you have to be able to empathize with them, to have some understanding of who they are and what their needs are. And I think, again, by being able to work with different people, working in education, working whatever, it's made me a good listener, but also one who can empathize and work toward a solution that will be more beneficial to the community.
I've always said that part of the problem in any community, you talk about potential. I think that many of the problems that we are having in our community are attributable to good leadership. Because I have found that when you go to the blue-collar workers and the food stamp recipients and the massive, they all are desirous of being involved in and helping the community. So I think that part of the responsibility of a good leader is, like you said, is to engage and involve, everybody in the community. And strangely enough, as quiet as it's kept, a lot of people in the community are just waiting to be asked. A lot of young folk and even senior citizens. Sometimes we don't realize how anxious people are to help the community and to move the community forward and support good initiatives in the community. So I want to talk about that, but let's talk about the beginning of your tenure on the county commissioners, and let's just walk through. You know, I'm sure there are some changes. There have been some changes in personnel and commissioners. Just talk about your experience as a commissioner from day one.
Well, I think when I came in, that one of the things that I knew was important is that we had to, again, recognize that the city is a part of the county, and that we didn't need to be there arguing and working against each other, that our interests ought to be the same, and certainly we had more in common than we had uncommon, and so we needed to work together in the best interest of the community. So I came up with a phrase that I thought has been a part of my administration ever since I've been there. That is, think community. Don't think city, don't think county, don't think individual. Think community. And if you can think community, then you can work toward one common goal. And I think that was important because, again, we had the service delivery strategy that was still out there that they had been arguing about for years in terms of, and this is one where you have to make a decision about who's responsible for certain services in the community, and it gets at double taxation as well. And so city folk were concerned that they were paying too much taxes, too many taxes, and that the county was taking advantage of the city. And so they said, how do we get to that? And I recommended, I said, what we ought to do is look and see if we can't do a tax equity study that would give us some indication as to where the disparities are. And then we ought to let that lead us. We ought to let that be the guide and sort of go where it would take us. We finally decided to do that, and we started talking with the mayor and with other folk. Got a tremendous amount of cooperation from them for the tax equity study. It was done by the Carl Vinson Institute, University of Georgia. They did it, and it did as they thought. It came up and said that there was a $5 million discrepancy between the city and the county, and that
in whose favor?
In favor of the city. And so that's what we thought it probably was. We knew there were some things that we were looking at that we should have had a different kind of take on. So we looked at that and decided that we need to resolve that and see if we can't, again, do some things that would rectify that. And we came up with there were some departments that we ought to move to the city, to the county. We moved engineering, we moved recreation, we moved planning and zoning, at least for the budget. We did inspection and fees. And that enabled us to do a couple of things. We can now move toward the one-stop shop that people have been asking for a long time. Recreation ought to be countywide. I mean, so you can then do some things there, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And then we move engineering, which again ought to be countywide, because you're talking about roads that move from the city to the county, and you ought to have one group taking care of those kinds of things. So we did that, and now we were able to do that without a tax increase. So that, though, created a momentum to do some other things, and one was to pass a SPLOST that would put about $190 million into our coffers to do some infrastructure repairs and building that we needed to do. And with that, we've been able to do a couple of things that will have a tremendous impact on this community. That is, we've been concerned about safety. So now we're going to be able to do that juvenile justice facility, which again will be a facility where we can move the youth out of the courthouse where they have to mingle with the other persons being tried in courts, and we can move them to a separate kind of thing and do some different kind of thing. We're going to create a juvenile court kind of campus where we can have the courts, but we can also have some intervention teams there, and they can look at things, and when judges make decisions about youth, some of it sometimes can include counseling, so we can get them back in the productive situation as quickly as we can. So we're going to have that, and we move that away from the main courts. We, again, was able to get the 800 megahertz radio system, and that's a system that's going to enable all first respondents to communicate. We weren't able to do that before, and that's a shame, but now we're going to be able to do that. And
think of it what's happening to us, what's happening in New York right now.
That's right. Then if you weren't able to communicate.
Right.
And so, so those are two things. And then, so people are concerned about safety, and so we're going to deal with that. And we're buying cars, police cars, that will enable them to have the best fleet to respond as possible.
Right.
We're building fire stations so we can, again, keep the rating down and keep the insurance rating rates where they need to be, but also keep people safe. So we've hit that safety side. That's a big concern to people. But we've also looked at the job side, the economic side. And we were able to put $6 million in for encroachment. Working with Houston County and to a lesser degree Peach County, we are able to deal with that whole encroachment area along with the state and DOD.
What do you mean encroachment?
Encroachment is where, again, that houses and other people into the noise zone and crash zone of the Robins Air Force Base. And so people look at that and say, we don't need any new missions here because the liability is too great. And so they go to other places. And so what they want you to do is have a plan to move those houses out of those areas and move people out of those areas. You can have businesses, but they don't want houses in those areas. So we were able to come in, buy those houses, and move those people out. And hopefully, at some point in time, we can convert that to some other kind of things. But right now, with Department of Defense money, with monies from the state, monies from us, and Houston County, and some Peach County money, we're going to be able to purchase those homes, move those folks out, and that will enable us to get other missions in there and be competitive when the BRAC come back, because it is coming back, that we'll still be in good shape and hopefully would not lose those jobs. As you know, that's a $200 million economic impact annually in Bibb County. And in the state of Georgia, it's $4.2 billion. So we don't need to lose that kind of money for the base. That's the kind of economic impact it has.
Wow.
So here we save jobs and create a situation where we can get additional missions and then new jobs. I mean, it just makes sense for us to do that. But in addition to that, we took some of the money that we put in economic development through the SPLOS and used as incentives to get Tractor Supply here, which is going to be 200 plus jobs, real jobs now. And so, and still we got some money left that we're going to continue to do things. So we had a tremendous impact on two things that's going to have a real impact on our community as it relates to things that this community is really concerned about: safety, jobs. I mean, two things that are very tangible. People put their hand on, can grow, can affect employment and safety for our area.
Well, how you do it? You know, this is a call to action.
Hey, call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. I'm interviewing Commission Chairman Sam Hart here, and we're talking about the present, past, and future progress of our community. And I appreciate you coming and appreciate the insight into what you're telling me as it relates to what's going on in the community. We want to talk some. You know, of course, you need to mention recreation, too.
Yes.
You need to talk about that and its impact. But let me ask you a question. How have you been as effective as you have without being a rah-rah expert? You know, it just seems that, oftentimes elected officials are always tooting their own horns and things of that nature. But it seems to me, and I could be wrong, that you've taken a different approach, and based on what you're telling me, you've been very effective about dealing from the position of chairman and dealing with the people and dealing with other entities that are important in the community.
Well, everybody has an ego, but what I try to do is make mine subservient to the need to do other good things, and so I try to engage good folk, and you know what? Almost everywhere you go, you got good people. And if you get them to do anything, you that's some of us behind the scene. And like I said, you can be in your face kind of politician, and it will get headlines, but it doesn't get results.
Right.
I'm much more interested in getting results, and that means again that you have to share the credit, and you have to, and if you're willing to do that, then people are willing to work. And I've been one who very satisfied with letting other folk get credit for what they do and letting them do it. And so I try to engage good folk, get them involved, and then work with them to get things done. And as a result of that, I've been able to get pretty good results for people.
Right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the transition team and consolidation when we come back, but we're going to take a quick break. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
We'll be right back. We're back. This is a call to action, and I'm your host, Alex Habersham, interviewing Commission Chairman, Bibb County Commission Chairman Sam Hart. And we were having a very, very interesting and productive conversation talking about the state of the county. And like you said, the city is a part of it. So it's a state of our community, and there are several things going on. And I'm like you. Too often I've heard about the potential, and I think there are several factors that attribute to our potential, the educational system, the geographical system, the water system. And so the only thing that we need, in my opinion, is the right kind of leadership to take advantage of those things. So give me an idea, if you would, of how you plan to move the community forward, immediately, and what are some of your long-term and long-range goals of moving the community forward. And, of course, consolidation is going to play a role in that, but it's going to be a year and a half, I guess, before, the community is consolidated, though, since you're on the transition team, I think that you ought to mention that. But what would you like to see us go?
Well, I think you're right. I think going forward in the next year is going to be a very interesting year in that this community and leaders in this community are going to have to balance keeping the city and county running for another year while we transition into a new government. And I think that's going to be a real challenge because there are some things that we promised the community that we would do with the SPLOST funds, for example. Like with recreation, that's one of the things that we're currently looking at. And I had an interesting talk last week with the new CEO of the medical center. And I was telling her about my interest in recreation and the fact that we'll be using $44 million to renovate some facilities that we didn't just want to renovate back to the state that they were before because we wanted a different use for them. And so we're getting a consultant to come in and talk to us about redefining recreation. And she said, boy, I'd like to be a part of that because what we ought to do is think wellness, and let recreation be a part of that. Let's think wellness. Right. And we'd like to be a partner with that. I said, we'd like for you to be a partner with that. Right. And I think since then I talked with the president of Mercer saying, what about the medical school being a part of that? And then, and I talked this morning to a minister who was doing some similar things. What about, again, having a partnership with churches and other people? Let's move this community to something that will be wellness where we can, again, deal with the physical thing, looking at, obesity and other things that people are concerned about in our community. But again, tie in with the school so we can do some things to affect youth in terms of developing character and developing those kind of things in the afternoon. So recreation, we're hoping again to do something different with. So the balancing act I'm talking about is we need to move this community forward, taking care of the business that we got and the responsibilities that we got as it relates to some things that we got to do over the next year. In the meantime, though, on that transitional team, we need to be thinking how we want the new government to look. So part of what we've been trying to do and been talking about in the transitional team is seeing where we could function effectively as going forward. Why couldn't we look for opportunities to work as a combined one government kind of now? For example, with IT, why should you buy different equipment? Why don't we look and see what equipment we need going forward? Same thing with finance. While we still got to have separate budgets now, why don't we look, though, and see if there's software and other stuff we got to buy, we do it together now so that we can use this in the new government. Wow. So that's what we're currently doing is we're trying to, again, balance our responsibilities for the next year till this government ends, both governments end, city and county, and then move into the new government. So my deal is that we need to, again, make this new government as lean and as efficient as we can, looking at not so much trying to get rid of people, but seeing if we can't, in terms of its function, see what it would take to be an effective government. And I think there are some things we are charged with in terms of looking, well, first of all, not having any cost-wise, not for it to be any more costly than the current government.
Right.
But I tell you one unit that has functioned effectively as a combined deal has been the fire department. Number one. I'm rated number one, and it has functioned for both the city and the county.
Right.
And we think we can do the same thing with engineering. Our top engineer told me that the transition has been real smooth.
Wow.
And now they're looking at roads, paving roads, and doing stuff for the entire county.
Wow.
And keeping it going. So I think, again, we're going to be able to work very effectively. And so you need leadership who understands that continuity, who understands how government works, first of all, but two, can look for ways to make it more efficient, so that the beneficiaries of that efficiency goes back to the taxpayer.
Well, what do you see this community after consolidation? You know, somebody, and I forgot where I heard it, but somebody said, well, you people have finally got your act together down there. That's after we consolidated the government, somebody from Atlanta, and said, well, maybe some of us will start looking back at Macon now. So talk about how the perception of the community moving in a better direction will have a positive effect on, the future of the community. You got 1 minute.
Okay, the truth of the matter is what you said is exactly what happened. I was a part of that conversation. That a guy told us, you guys got your act together. You now moving, you got momentum going. You've done some things together. And the fact you now will be one government, speaking with one voice, more lean and efficient, you're back on our radar screen. And we're going to bring jobs here to your thing. And tractor supply came as a result of that, of the fact that we were moving in that direction.
Wow.
We've not done consolidation, but this guy was so impressed by the fact that the mayor and I were talking together and other folk working together that they moved in that direction. So you did on it. I mean, I think now that consolidation has come, it's not the total answer. We still got some healing to do and bringing people together, but it certainly is a step in the right direction.
Right. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. I want to give my utmost appreciation to my guest today, Commission Chairman Sam Hart, who's in a race. He, of course, is running for re-election, but that's not the nature of this interview. We want to get a feel for what has brought you this far and where you see yourself going in the future. Let me thank you.
Thank you.
For all your service to this community.
Thank you.
You know, over the past 14, 16 years, however long it's been. You've done a phenomenal job, and I appreciate it because I know it's not a lot of money involved.
That's true.
So, as a citizen of this community, I want to thank you, and I appreciate you, and keep up the good work. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham. Have a great day.
www.makingblackpages.com